Well, hello there, my fellow rushers. How are you doing today? King Rexy here. And today we're gonna be doing another tier list. And this one is gonna be on the bosses across every Kingdom Rush game. Unfortunately, in this tier list, we do not have the mini bosses and the boss fight from the Hammerhold DLC. So they're not gonna be included here because, reasons. I haven't made this tier list myself, so yeah, that's a bit sad. But it is what it is. So how are we going to be judging the bosses? Well, we're going to be looking at three criterias. Their base stats, special abilities, and the wave that comes with them, because most of the bosses have a wave that accompanies them. And yeah, let's start off with the Juggernaut. Honestly, this boss is very underwhelming. He does have a decent amount of HP, but he has no resistances. Like, he's literally made out of metal. You think he will have at least high armor, but he doesn't have that. There really aren't any enemies that come with him. He can summon enemies, but he is a relatively easy boss fight to get through. Even on Veteran, he doesn't take a lot of skill to beat. JT, relatively tanky, a little bit tankier than the Juggernaut. He can freeze your towers, and he can also eat your units. Basically, he has an AoE skill for a basic attack, which does make him kinda difficult to stall, but not really. Like, if you just micro your barracks and your hero, basically do the Tutata maneuver, he literally can't move. And the enemies that come with him are okay, like there are a few Winter Wolves and the occasional Yeti that comes out, but considering the amount of towers you're gonna have, it's probably not gonna be as difficult, so he also goes into the easy tier. But I'll put him a little bit higher than the Juggernaut, just because he has a few more abilities than him. Veznan. Now, Veznan is kind of a controversial one. He is supposed to be difficult, and he is, but only on the first try. Like, for the first time when you have to deal with Veznan, he seems very hard because there's a lot of enemies that start spawning, demons start spawning out, he can disable your towers. His basic attack is deals AoE damage and it deals all the way up to 999 damage or something like that. He's very strong, and after you kill him, he has a second phase where he transforms into a demon. And anything that he attacks in the demon form basically gets insta-killed. The only downside to it is that after you get him to his second phase, no more enemies are spawning. So you can literally focus all of your firepower on him and kind of burst him down. Honestly, just for the sake of nostalgia, I'm gonna put it in hard. He is probably more towards the normal tier, but I guess we're gonna give him a pass and put him into the hard category. Gotak. Now this guy has always been kind of iffy to me because he seems relatively hard because he can heal his allies in a big area, but honestly that's all he really has. His basic attack is not too difficult to, like, it's not that high. His damage is like mid. And the wave that comes with him, though, is kind of challenging because it kind of forces you to not waste the Rain of Fire on him right away, because then you have to deal with all the Forest Trolls and the Orc Champions and that. So you kind of have to be careful around this guy, but I would say he is hard as well. Probably not harder than Veznan, though. I still think Gotak is slightly easier. Kingpin. Honestly, very good boss design. You can't stall him, he can heal himself, he can also steal your gold, and the wave composition that comes with him is rather challenging, plus he takes a unique path. So I'll bump him up to the very hard tier. He is kinda difficult to beat, especially since you can't stall him in any way, shape or form. Sarogas. Relatively easy boss, but she does have a really large amount of HP. I believe she has one of the highest in the game, excluding Joku. So yeah, she is very tanky, but unfortunately, unlike her smaller minions, she doesn't have dual resistances. So she's just a big health bar. The only thing is she can insta-kill your units, so you can't really afford to waste high tier units on her, but you can just spam low level barracks and essentially perma-stall her to death. But the wave composition that comes with her is pretty well designed, so I'll put her in the hard category. A little bit harder than Veznan, just a bit. Uruk-hai. This guy is also very unique because Unless you block him, you can't do damage to him. He's immune to all damage unless blocked. And since he deals area damage, it's kinda difficult to keep him occupied, while also having to deal with the Pathfinders, the Troll Breakers and all of that. So, honestly, yeah, he is a very hard boss. Not sure if he's harder than Kingpin, maybe just by a tiny bit, but I still think Kingpin is slightly harder to deal with than this guy. So, moving on to Mikaminit, or, you know, the mushroom guy. Pathetic. Just deadass pathetic. Sure, like, what's so difficult about him? Like, he has low HP, his damage is pathetic. Sure, he has an ability that you rarely ever see, where he just poisons all of your units and spawns some rot shrooms. And upon that, he also summons about like 10, I believe, 10 rot shrooms, but it's relatively easy to beat him. Like, you can literally kill him in the beginning of the level. Like, right as he comes in, you just use the Rain of Fire and keep him occupied with the reinforcements in your hero, and then you finish him off. It's a very easy boss, unless you're playing modded, but then again, we're judging the bosses based on the vanilla version of the game, not modded. Because if we compare him to, like, impossible mode, like, it's a night and day difference. Greenmark. This guy is probably... like... I'll put him honestly into the insane tier. I know, it may seem a bit sus, like why would you put him in the insane tier, is he even that hard? Well, yes he is. He does have armor, good amount of HP, a global attack that deals a lot of damage. He can, and the amount of treants that come with him on top of the other enemies make it very difficult to focus on him. And usually he makes it pretty far, like, especially if you're playing on veteran difficulty, he can usually get very close to your exit. And it's always kind of scary to fight this guy, even in the vanilla version. So yeah, I think he's gonna be the first one to go into the insane tier category. Moloch. Now this guy is questionable. Like, his basic attacks deal area damage, but his damage is pretty low. But if you stall him with more than one unit, he has an AoE insta-kill that he can trigger every once in a while. So, you may think that he's difficult to stall, but he's not. All you need to do is just use an elemental and kite him out a bit, and eventually he's gonna die, because he has no resistances whatsoever. The wave composition, though, kinda pushes him a little bit in terms of difficulty, but not quite enough, so I'm only gonna put him into the normal category. He's alright. Not the greatest, not the worst boss ever made. Lord Blackburn, very interesting one. He does have a high armor. On top of that, he also can disable your towers in a very large radius. He can also stun nearby units. His basic attacks deal AoE damage. And on top of that, every time a unit dies near him, they resurrect as a skeleton, which is pretty interesting. The wave composition that comes with him isn't that difficult, but the boss itself is quite hard, so I'm gonna put him in the hard tier category. Probably above Sarogas, even though Sarogas has way more HP. Blackburn has a lot more unique abilities that kinda pushes him up the ladder. We do not talk about this guy, he doesn't exist, he's a failure of a boss. Like, what's the purpose of this guy even existing? Just no. I would say Mikanit is better than this. The big monkey guy. Sorry, I forgot the name of this boss. I think it was Quinston or something. Quincy. If you play BD6, you probably know who he is. Honestly, not too bad. Sure, he deals area damage, and he can summon he can summon like smaller versions of himself, and he can just switch paths from left to right. But honestly, he is pretty easy. I would say maybe above JT, but for now I'm gonna put him in between these two. Like, he's relatively easy to beat. Umbra, on the other hand, now this is a very memorable boss fight. Many people would consider this to be one of, if not the hardest, boss fight in a regular campaign, because he has multiple phases. He has like, what, 4 to 5 phases or so. He can summon Shade Elementals, which are pretty difficult and devastating, especially on Veteran difficulty. He can destroy your towers. he can teleport, and he's pretty beefy. Yeah, I would put him into the insane tier. Probably, yeah, definitely above Green Muck. He is a very iconic boss that should be remembered. On the other hand, we have one of the least memorable bosses, the Leviathan. This guy, the only thing is you can't stall him since he is in the water. And he can also disable your towers every once in a while, but meh. Like, the waves that come with him are not that bad, to be honest. Like, Sunken Citadel is one of those levels where it is a hard level until you get to the boss fight, and then you realize that this guy is pathetic, so... Fittingly, we're gonna put him into the pathetic tier. But definitely above the Djinn, because, you know, Leviathan is a little bit more threatening in my opinion. Just a bit. Vassile. This guy is interesting because he has multiple phases, and after each phase, he switches the path that he goes at. His first phase is not too difficult. He just deals a little bit of damage, and he can occasionally heal from one of your units. And in his second phase, he just kind of just levitates towards the exit, and he has a dead aura. But he has not as much HP, so you can easily burst him down with Bolt Barrage if you have enough of them. But the waves that come with him are pretty difficult, so I'm gonna put him into the... you know what? He gave me a lot of trouble as a kid, so I'm gonna put him into the very hard category. He is a difficult boss fight indeed. Probably, you know what, I'm gonna put him right here. Frontier's bosses were pretty hard to beat. Zizzy, my brother in Christ. What about him? Like, he's mid. Oh, not you. You need to be here. I'll put him in normal. I don't think he... You know what? Maybe he is a little bit better than Moloch. Because he is very fast. He has medium armor. On top of that, he can also deal global damage. Even though he has to stand still for a while, being able to deal global damage is pretty OP, plus the shake screens, which gives him a little bit of extra points for coolness. The wave that comes with him is somewhat challenging, but not really. Like, he's mid. Hahaina. He probably has one of the most interesting abilities in the game, where he has this Howl ability, which empowers every unit near him, but the problem is the range of this ability is so short that you rarely even notice it. The other ability that he has is an AoE attack that deals... Well, it's not an AoE attack, it's a basic attack that deals global damage, and it's... I think it is possible to dodge it, but I'm not sure. So... like, he does have medium armor, don't get me wrong, but he is relatively easy to beat. Not a very difficult boss whatsoever. You could literally perma-stall him at the beginning of the level. So because of that, I'm gonna bump him down a little bit lower, because with JT, at least he is pretty hard to stall at the beginning of the level, since he has an AoE insta-kill for his basic attack. Militia. Interesting boss. She has she has multiple phases, and you have to deal a percentage of her health in order to get her into her next phase. Her basic attacks deal AoE damage, so she is pretty difficult to stall, especially if you have all your units in very close proximity to one another. The wave that comes with her is relatively challenging, especially at the end when you have all these Avengers just storming at you. The other ability is kind of interesting too, where she can disable your spells and your towers for a while. So yeah, she is a hard boss fight. Definitely in the middle, right in between. The Spider Goddess, on the other hand, she is very hard, because she also has tower destruction, although not to the same capability as Umbra, so I'll put her into the very hard category. The waves that come with her are pretty easy to beat. Even on impossible mode, the waves are not too difficult to deal with, but she is pretty hard to stall because she deals a lot of damage in an area. Plus, she can web your towers. She can disable your spells from being activated. Yeah, she's a pain in the butt to deal with for sure. So definitely a very hard boss. Brom the Beheader. Now, Beheader Seed is a pretty difficult level in and of itself, but he kind of has the problem with the Leviathan, where the level that they're on are quite hard, but the boss designs are just meh. Like, he's very easy to beat. Okay, maybe not pathetic, but, you know, definitely into the easy category. Probably right around here, I suppose. Smack dab in the middle. Okay. Yeah, for his abilities, I mean, he doesn't really have that many. His basic attack can insta-kill your units, except your hero, and occasionally he can transform Gnomes into Blood Gnomes, but you rarely ever see this ability in action. But the wave that comes with him is kind of easy to beat. As long as you can deal with the Org Magi's that are behind him, he's very easy. Badge Niman, probably one of the most difficult bosses out there. Right here in the middle. I don't think he is harder than Umbra, but he is definitely up there, because he has a very straightforward path that he has to go in, and he has a very strong AoE attack that can pretty much kill anything in its path, unless you have Blade Singers. Even though there is a cheese strategy to beating him, if you don't use it and you try to beat him normally, the boss is really hard. And the closer he gets to your exit, the more enemies start spawning, and it gets very insane. So I think it will be fitting for him to be into the insane tier. Godiet. Now this guy is pretty interesting. He kind of works the same as Badge Niman, where the closer he gets to the exit, the more enemies start spawning, so that's cool. His abilities are meh, like, his basic attack is kind of strong because it deals area damage, but the Dark Spit that he has is very OP because it primarily targets your hero, so if you don't move your hero out of this area, he's just gonna die, and he's gonna resurrect as a Shadow Spawn. And if you're not careful with your hero micro, this boss fight can be very disastrous, so I'll put him into the very hard category. Even though you have a secondary hero, Bulwark, he does help out quite a bit against Godiet for extra stalling. I don't think he is as bad as like the Spider Goddess. If anything, he is alright. He's barely making it into the very hard category. Now moving on to the Vengeance bosses. Starting off with... well, we're gonna try to go with them in order. Boger, the Golden King. Yeah, what's the point of you existing? You're into the pathetic tier. If you use the... excuse me. Damn, I had a cough and a half. So where was I? Oh yeah, Boger. Now this guy is pretty easy to beat. All you need to do is literally get a Shadow Mark on him, unleash Soul Impact as rolled, and over half his health is gone. And even though his basic attacks deal explosive damage, so using Dark Knights is not gonna be as effective, he's still not too difficult to stall, and you can literally kill him at spawn, which is hilarious, so he definitely is into the pathetic tier. Let's see, who's next? Joku. Joku is a very unique design. The waves that come with her are alright. She can freeze your towers and units for a few seconds in a different zone, and she can also create icicles that deal a little bit of damage. But I would say she is kind of easy. Even though the boss fight is unique, I don't think she is a very difficult one to get by. Gerald Lightseeker kind of has the same problem as Boger. You can literally just get a Shadow Mark on him, Blazing Gem it, and kill him right away, so into the pathetic tier. Honestly, I'll put him a little bit higher because he does have a better wave that comes with him compared to Boger, and on top of that, he can heal himself, which is pretty nice. The Paragon, I don't know. He does have dual resistances, and he deals area damage, so he's difficult to stall, and there can be up to 3 of them in one level. And the waves that come with him are somewhat challenging, so I'll put him in the middle of hard tier. He's not too difficult, but he's like hard, but he's not super hard, you know? Pollux the Wise. Ribbit. So, Pollux, kind of an interesting boss, but he doesn't have any armor, no resistances, and he just barely doesn't have 10,000 HP. So he's kind of pathetic, but at the same time, the waves that comes with him is pretty good. He can teleport around the map, and he can insta-kill your units, basically JT but better. So I'll put him on top of the easy category. He might be normal difficulty because of the wave, but in my opinion, Pollux is relatively easy to take down if you know what you're doing. Winter Queen, kind of irrelevant, not gonna lie. She has the lowest HP out of any boss in the game. On top of that, she doesn't really have anything too special about her outside of freezing towers. She deals area damage, but like most bosses deal area damage and we've dealt with them just fine. So she's not too difficult to beat. The only annoying part about her is the wave. The wave that comes with her really makes it difficult to focus your firepower on her. But still, she is into the pathetic tier. Probably on top of the pathetic tier. So yeah, that's right. You're gonna stay there for a while, unless Ironhide decides to finally redesign this boss. Moving on to the Dragon King. Very unique boss fight, not gonna lie. You can't stall him. He kind of just casually moves through the level, and the abilities he has are kind of meh. He just creates water zones, and if an enemy gets there, most of the enemies synergize when they come in contact with water. So he is kind of interesting, but for the most part, he is not too difficult to beat. I would say probably normal difficulty. A little bit better than Pollux, but not by all that much. Then we have the Ancient Ghosts. Now these guys are interesting because they can rotate, so you never know where they're gonna appear. And that's why I'm gonna put them into the very hard category, because you may be thinking that they are very easy to beat, but sometimes if, for example, the Magical Immune Ghost spawns on the site where you have barely any physical damage, he's gonna cause a lot of trouble. Same thing for the other one. If he spawns in an area where you mostly have physical damage, he's gonna be very hard to kill. And the enemies that come with the bosses are not that many, but they definitely create a distraction, so they're pretty hard to beat, especially if you get bad RNG, that is. So that's why I'm gonna put them into the very hard category, because the difficulty is really based on 50-50 chance. And last but not least, Great T. I love your design, man. You're a part of my family, but you're the cousin that nobody talks about because you're pathetic. Sure, he has magic resistance, and his abilities are very unique, but you can literally spawn kill him in like 10 seconds. He's pathetic. I'm sorry. Okay, you know what? Just because I'm biased, because, you know, I'm a lizard, I'll bump you up to the easy tier. But not any higher, not any lower. You're just gonna stay there. Probably around... Yeah, okay. I believe he is a little bit... No, nah. Just stay there. I don't want to talk about Great T. Like, his abilities are cool, but that's about it. The wave composition is kind of pathetic. So yeah, Great T, I'm not gonna put you any higher, man. I'm sorry. So that's gonna do it for the tier list. Now, if I have to put the mini bosses in the boss fight from the Hammerhole DLC, I'll probably put Mirage into the easy category. I'll put Shattra in the same one. Sure, he can destroy towers, but other than that, he doesn't really do anything that of significance. And Ulrich, I'll put him into the normal category. He's pretty easy. Malik, honestly, Malik, I'll bump him up to on the high end of hard, on the high end of the hard tier, because if he destroys the tower, you can't build anything in its place, and he can teleport around the map. Plus, he deals a lot of damage, so yeah, he's a challenging boss fight. So that's officially gonna do it for the tier list. Let me know what you think of it down into the comment section. I would love to hear your opinions. And with that out of the way, that's gonna do it for today's video. Thank you everybody so much for watching. I appreciate you for sticking around to the end. Subscribe if you want to see more of this content in the future, and while you're at it, drop a like on the video. It means a lot to me. And I will see you in the next video. Until it comes, that was King Rexy, over and out.